We're going to talk about something that has a lot of mystery to it, awareness ads, paid and Google ads, that sometimes just feel like, why should I waste my money? I tried it 5 years ago, it didn't work. What can we do now that would change the situation? So that's what we're talking about in 2023. There's a lot of improvements. Google definitely heard feedback. And then you have agencies like ours that did so much trial and error to get to a point where we're pretty happy with how this awareness stuff works now. So we want to dive in. First of all, we'll introduce exclusive properly later. We've been around now for 26 years. Most of our clients are emerging brands. We are honored to have so many established brands trust us as well. My name is Nick Rochfall. I'm the VP of Marketing Sciences here at Exclusive. I joined the company to develop our solutions. So I launched our SEO program, Google Ads, conversion testing, email, Amazon. I developed our strategy team and our philosophy, and did all the hiring and built our workflows and our tools for 5-6 years until there were other people that were smarter than me taking on those different roles. And I started to work directly with prospective clients on this emerging science of, let me see what you're working with, let me see your competitors, and figure out through some framework what the perfect marketing mix is supposed to be for you, and how we can develop projections and just get ahead of that planning. So now if any of you do want to work with us or want to take a crack at what a plan would be for you, I'd probably be the one to help do that planning. And I'm also the host of our webinar series we do every 2 weeks, and I'm joined by Melissa.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Melissa Knowlton. I am the head of paid search and video advertising here at Exclusive. So I joined Exclusive in 2019. So it's been an awesome 3.5 years working in e-commerce digital marketing. Specifically at Exclusive, I lead strategy on both paid search, display, video, and discovery. Today's focus is video, display, discovery, which are all very fun channels to work with, really get the creative juices flowing, but also work with clients directly across all of what Google Ads and Microsoft has to offer. Yeah, excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to get to your part. I'm just going to quickly introduce our framework and how we're looking at everything, so that as we go into the details of Google Ads many functions, there's at least some framework to everything. So we're going to start off with kind of our overarching approach. So we do think businesses should invest in a KPI, a key performance indicator, that is kind of the hero, the spotlight. Typically, we suggest marketing efficiency ratio. So it's, all your marketing dollars, including agency fees, compared to all your revenue. But we also want businesses to figure out how to diversify their investments, and not diversify just based on channels, but diversify in ways that make more sense for your business. And what we've done is we've broken down businesses into essentially 5 different small business units. A small business unit is something that has its own kind of investment level, expected return. And we broke it down into essentially 5 small business units that are driving forces of your business. Cold audiences finding out about you for the first time, that's awareness. You want to have an investment there. You want to set a specific goal there. And there's people who are searching for your space, your category, but don't know you. That's consideration. Past visitors, investing in them till they matriculate to become a customer. That's conversion. Past customers, trying to activate them for repeat purchase. That's loyalty. And asking anyone who's purchased from you to like or share or review, that deserves its own investment. And that's called advocacy. And all of these SBUs virtuously support each other. So it's healthier for your business. During hard times and great times, you can figure out which levers to pull more, etc. And it gives us a chance to plan cross-channel. So for example, when we say, let's ramp up more awareness, well, there's a lot of tactics related to awareness. across a lot of different channels. And all our different specialized teams know we're going to triage and coordinate on awareness. Here are the tactics that we could talk about now. It just simplifies everything. With Google Ads, there's a few awareness specific ads. Like Google kind of gets that there's an awareness and a consideration and conversion. In fact, they were one of the first adopters of our VAC framework very enthusiastically. They still have some kinks to work out, but there are some great bifurcation places. For example, discovery ads, video reach, and display ads are all meant to drive awareness. They can drive other things as well. We'll get into that nuance, but they're mainly made for awareness. This is cold audiences finding out about your brand. And then there's kind of like the core in e-commerce. People think about search ads, shopping, video action, and smart shopping's recent replacement, Performance Max. No, there's a lot of reasons why awareness all of a sudden has become more impactful in Google Ads. Part of it is because there are these cleanly sequestered ad types meant for awareness, but also buying habits, like everything else. We went through a big transition in the pandemic, and where people used to go to the internet to buy available inventory of brands that they already knew, because of scarcity during the pandemic, because people missed having some excitement, there was this shift in, well, I want to try new things. I'm stuck at home. I can at least try something different. Or my favorite brand is out. What can I research of a new brand to adopt? So there was a shift in brand, like household brands always leading to generics actually taking their spot as a lead for the most growth. We also saw that it's hard to remember now, but before the pandemic, people go to Amazon or online just to get the lowest price, and that was basically it. You think, oh, maybe I can find it cheaper online. You go into Best Buy, you check online, you buy something cheaper, and that was like the driving adoption force of e-commerce. Really bad on margins, hard for every business to take off online, but now it's down to 18%. And people don't care as much about going online just for the lowest price. They want something that is best for their needs. And they've established a significantly more comprehensive rubric in buying that gets to what's the right fit for me. So people are on the entire spectrum of price point adoption and lifestyle association. And all of a sudden, awareness starts to make a lot more sense. Specifically, when you look at video, which we'll cover quite a bit, I found this really fascinating. 90% of people say they discovered a new brand or a product on YouTube. Does that number matter? Yeah, but what's interesting is very little of that is inactive, meaning they're discovering brands, but they're not willing to take action on it. From the 90%, it goes down to 70% actually took some action. They bought products that they saw on YouTube. Only that little 20% sliver is like, I'll find new brands on YouTube, but I won't buy them. It hardly even happens. People are adopting and buying the brands that they discover for the first time on YouTube. We're going to cover a lot of different ad types, but mainly Google display ads, video reach ads, discovery ads, and video action ads. And so that you can kind of ground yourself and also hear a little bit from your peers. This is a multiple choice option. What are you currently investing in your awareness marketing? Okay. The majority of you have already voted. I'm going to give this another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Let's see. So I find this interesting. 67% of you are invested in Google Display Ads. Of the 33% remaining, 26%, you're not doing anything. Very few people are not invested in display if they're invested in anything. 19% using discovery ads, 14 video reach, and only 9% video action. What are your thoughts on that real quick, Melissa?
I would say it's not too surprising just based on how long things have been around. Google Display Ads have been here for a while, so people are probably most comfortable with them. Video reach and video action, relatively new. There are older versions that people may have used too that have been revamped. Discovery ads used to be the newest ad until PMAX came around, so that's good that that one's gone up. But yeah, it makes me more excited to talk about video today because it is very valuable.
Yeah, this reminds me of when we take a look at Amazon accounts. So we manage a lot of different channels, but Amazon accounts, advertising accounts almost always are just focused on product ads. And it's the exact same thing. Chronologically, product ads are the oldest, but the older an ad type is, the problem is it becomes saturated. And then you can already see here, 14% adoption of video reach, 9% of video action. That's a vacuum. That's phenomenal. Vacuums are lower cost and higher performing. So love that. Thank you folks for sharing.
Awesome. Then we'll jump into all the different ad types. And as we go, feel free to throw questions in the chat so we can answer them at the end.
Melissa, we'll do one quick thing. I'm going to see if giving you keyboard and mouse works.
Okay. Oh, and I can see my mouse. Okay, this should work. Sweet, that did work. So first we're going to talk about here is discovery ads. About 19% of you guys have used discovery ads before. So for those of you who haven't used it, discovery ads are a ad type that shows only on 3 placements. So you'll see here the left screen is only for Gmail or the Gmail placement. The middle screen here is the Google Discover feed. And if you haven't used it before, it's more prominent on like Google Pixel. I have not used it because I'm an iPhone user, but if you have a Pixel, you might know it. And then on the right is YouTube, which hopefully everyone has heard of. It only shows on those 3 placements, which makes it unique to any other Google ad type because normally it shows a lot more stuff. This is a case study that Google did on their own to determine the success of discovery campaigns. This was specifically a case study for UGG, the shoe brand, if you're familiar. And what they ended up seeing is that it reached about 3 billion customers who are shopping on these 3 separate placements, and UGG was able to get a 10-to-1 return on ad spend, about 8 times higher click-through rate than the vertical benchmark, and that is pretty standard across the board. We see really high click-through rates on discovery campaigns because they have really strong placements, even though there's only 3 of them, and they also saw a 60% lower cost per acquisition than paid social. There we go. So when you're launching discovery campaigns, especially when you're going an awareness route, our recommendations, quick bullets, are just spend early, spend enough, and focus on window shopping. These are very visual ads. A lot of clients will even replicate what they're doing on social and put it on discovery because the formatting is very similar. So you want to attract them with good ads, and then you want to spend when it's appropriate and spend enough. It does have recommendations that you spend a certain amount higher than your CPA to allow the automation to do what it needs to do. But when you do so, it tends to work out very well in your favor. Specifically, discovery works in, it has a lot of crossover, and in general, Google has a lot more crossover between campaign types than it used to. For discovery specifically, maybe asking like, why should I use this when I have, say, PMAX? The reason we say you should use discovery, even if you are running a PMAX campaign, is you have far more control over the audiences. On Performance Max, you cannot segment out audiences outside of the campaign. You can set them up inside of it, but you can't say only run on remarketing or only run on cold. On discovery campaigns, you can, so you can target all of those SBUs that Nick was talking about individually. When you compare it to display, we do have less placements, but they tend to be more valuable. Like we mentioned earlier, click-through rate tends to be really strong on discovery. Display is not known for having the strongest click-through rates. It's more visual, and you're kind of hoping people digest that content. When you compare it to video, it generates more site traffic. We'll talk about video in many future slides. But video is great for awareness, but it's not a great play if you're trying to build site traffic. It's often people watch a YouTube ad and they come back later, and you're hoping they come back later, but it's not that direct one-to-one, sees ad, clicks off of the platform. Whereas discovery ads, they tend to click the ad much more frequently than they do if they are watching the video content, and they show in the same space. They're both on YouTube. And then when you compare it to Meta, we have just better attribution in general. Meta went through a big overhaul of their attribution modeling, and Google just shows us better results, just like tracking results from it. There we go. And so we showed you UGG, which was a case study from Google. This is a case study from us, from a client that sells like luxury gourmet Wagyu beef. This client came to us with a challenge that they wanted to create more digital touch points for their past visitors to the site, especially when they were facing year-over-year and period-over-period decreases in revenue, as well as lower conversion rate. The approach we took is they were already spending on Google Display, YouTube, and social. So they already had visibility really well across the board. And the question then is, what next? If we're already doing all these tactics, where can we go from here? And for them, it was going into discovery campaigns. So we launched discovery campaigns and saw instantly incremental revenue and a stronger ROAS than we were even seeing on the display network. So you can see here that our Google display for the same period was about 60K in revenue, but only 370% return on ad spend. Discovery had even stronger, or not even stronger revenue, but it had almost the same amount of revenue, about 40K in revenue, but the ROAS was much stronger. So it was more profitable revenue for them, which led them to just continue adding this to their mix because it was showing promising results. So that's discovery ads. We also, of course, still have display ads, which a lot of you guys are using. The difference between these two is, first, not audience targeting. They both allow the same level of breakdown and segmentation within audiences. The difference really comes into the ad formats and then the targeting, contextual targeting too. So like we mentioned, Discovery only has 3 general placements: YouTube, Gmail, and the Discover feed. Google Ads display network is the same display network we've had for a while, but you can target based on keywords or topics, or specific placements, like if you want to show on a set range of websites or YouTube channels as well. For the ad formats for Google Display, the options are responsive display ads, and you can enable the feed. There's also, of course, the classic banner ads or uploaded image ads, and you can also do GIFs, which is animated images. On Discovery, we only have 2 ad placements, so it's Google Ads as a single card image, so it's just one image with text below it, or this carousel ad, and that's where people often replicate what they're doing on social, because you can have that carousel format also on Instagram and Facebook. Cool. So you might be asking yourself, what is the GDN, or the Google Display Network? The GDN is a collection of millions of sites, apps, and videos across any platform really that Google can put your ads on. So it can go from apps on your phone to websites where you get recipes or recipes or like news or anything like that. If you're seeing an ad, there's a good chance Google is one of the platforms serving it to you. Yeah. And so then why do we use the Google Display Network? So at its core, why we use these platforms and use Google Display ads in general. First is we want to reconnect with your most valuable customers. So that taps into that conversion and loyalty aspect. We want them coming back to the site. We want to remind them of your products. We want them to know that you're still here and that they could finish that cart order if they left it abandoned on your site. But of course, we also want to drive awareness with these new customers, which is why we're here today. And that taps into awareness and consideration. So getting those audiences that are similar to what we've had purchased in the past, or they're in markets or affinities or anything labeled by that, display can get in front of them with that audience targeting. And then some benefits of it. So like we were just mentioning, it works at every stage of the Virtuous activity cycle. It's best practice to start with remarketing and then expand into upper and middle targeting, because when you do start with remarketing, it gives you a chance to like dip your toes in the water with an audience that's likely to be more profitable than cold. Easier to convince someone who's been to your site to make a purchase than someone who's never heard of you before, but you still need to be there. You still need to build that awareness. And then, of course, like we mentioned, you can target separate audiences or contexts that fit into what you're going for. Here we go. So then we mentioned one of these ad types, so responsive display ads. This is the easiest way for you to get started on get started with the Google Display Network. In my opinion, it is the future of Google Ads is responsive everything, frankly. So what you do is you upload different headlines and different copy, different images, you upload your business logo, and then Google takes it all together and reassembles it based on the placement on the internet. So if it's a square ad, it'll make it fit that square placement. If it's a long banner, it'll fit that placement too. It allows you to really easily jump into this space, and it also allows you to just have much wider reach than you would if you had just standard banner ads. Sweet. And then we often get asked for creative. So we're running, responsive display ads, or maybe you're running banner ads. What do we do from there now that we've got them live in the account? We recommend reviewing the asset report in Google Ads every 2 to 4 weeks to make sure things are still working well, make sure engagement is still up. If you see like click-through rate is plummeting month over month, that's a good chance for you to update your assets and make sure that you're still engaging with the customers and keeping their interest peaked. Of course, remove and replace anything that's not performing well. You also want to make sure that the types of images that are consistently performing better are still working in the account. And then, of course, don't add new assets more than once per week if you are running a test, and most of these things should be framed as a test even if you're pretty confident in it. We don't want to add too much in there because that muddies the data of what's working and what's not. And then, of course, if you change or replace it all at once, that also makes it hard to tell what's doing well, what's not. Sweet. And then the last chunk of this is about video campaigns, which are my biased personal favorite. My title is Head of Paid Search and Video Advertising for a reason. I love video ads, so happy to answer any questions as we go or at the end. So the two main types of video ads that we work with are called video action and video reach campaigns. Video action is it uses Google's automation to specifically go after conversions. So that is a great ad type for any audience that is a remarketing audience, has been to the site before, or even they're in like that in-market phase where they are searching for something, but they don't know what they want yet or who they want it from yet. Whereas video reach campaigns specifically have a goal of building awareness. So they're great for those cold audience campaigns that don't really know what they're looking for, might have a general interest in what you sell, but not even in the buying mode yet. And that's where that comes in. There we go. So there's some new features also available with video action and reach campaigns. One of those is adding in a feed. This example here for supplements client was actually my supplements client. We tested out the feeds in the both video action and video reach campaigns to see what kind of impacts that would have. Like we mentioned earlier, video is not known for driving clicks. So anything we can do to make clicks happen, we want to do it. And we pretty much saw instantly overnight for this client that click-through rate went up about 73% by enabling the feed. So when you look at a video campaign, if you're ever watching on your phone or your desktop, if there's products below the ad or next to the ad, that is because the feed is enabled, and we recommend you do that too. Of course, there's also audience targeting, and audience targeting I would say is like the pillar of how you should be structuring your video campaigns. The ads are very important, but who you're targeting is like the root of the strategy for us. We want to make sure that we move beyond just Google's standard audience definitions, especially like say you're a women's boutique brand, you sell apparel. That audience specifically, if you look at like women's apparel audience, it's in the billions, and most of us don't have the budget to go after billions and billions of women who are shopping for clothes. That's where we can really step in with YouTube custom audiences, where we can really hone in on the audiences that make the most sense for us, that are searching the right keywords on Google or have an interest in things like that. It helps you really define the most relevant audience. And then of course, you can also add in like competitor sites or things like that to really tell Google, these are the people we want to go after. And then here's some examples from Google of just how we can use audiences to really drive performance. This is a car brand, and they wanted to reach light TV users, and light TV viewers are people who do not watch a lot of TV. So I fall into that bucket. I don't watch TV ever, but I watch a lot of YouTube. So if you were to target light TV viewers with YouTube campaigns, you are getting in front of those people who Google has determined through their wonderful tracking means that they don't watch a lot of TV. And they ended up seeing about a 43% view rate at a very efficient cost per view by doing this. Another example is Airbnb. They use in-market audiences. So in-market is someone who is showing intent to purchase in this industry or this brand or whatever they're looking for. They were able to reach people in the in-market audience, and they saw about a 522% lift in brand interest by advertising specifically to those users. And then the last was for Dota. So they used custom audiences to determine, again, that's like building it out based on specific search terms. And they saw that their CPA went down about 79%, while as conversions went up. And that's why we really recommend to our clients, use custom audiences. We know most people don't have an unlimited budget, and this is going to help you really focus in on who the most important users are. Cool. So now we know about the audiences. This is my personal tip and trick for how to make your video campaigns even more efficient. So we have those cold audiences, and then often we will then remarket to them. So they see the ad, and then we're hoping they get to the site, and then we're marketing to those people who visited the site. But there's that gap in between. If they saw that one ad one time, relying on them from seeing that one ad to then remember us is very wishful thinking. It would be great if every time someone sees an ad, they digest it, but realistically, they're not. That's where we can add in this opportunity to target people who have viewed our ads but have not made it to the site, and we can then keep serving them ads until they eventually make it to the site, and then they fall into that bigger remarketing bucket. There we go. And then, of course, once we're running video campaigns, you do want to be aware that not every placement, and if you've run display ads, you know this too, not every placement is a good placement. There's a lot of spam content out there. There's children's content that's aimed at, like very young people who don't have credit cards and can't make a purchase. Mobile apps where people aren't even looking to get off of the app. So if you're playing Candy Crush, you're probably not interested in making a purchase in that moment. You just want to keep playing. At Exclusive, we have a placements list that it says 10,000 here. I actually double checked this morning. It's actually 15,000 placements that we are just accruing over time, which placements are no longer effective for our users, and we across the board are keeping them off. We recommend to anyone who's optimizing for display or video that you make sure that you are not serving on bad placements over and over and over again. Oops. There we go. And then, of course, device sculpting is still effective. So a majority of spend may be going towards a device that has weaker conversion rates. With data-driven attribution especially, we can see if like TV is driving conversions for you. They might not make a purchase on their TV, but they might see an ad on TV and then purchase on their phone. But we still want to be wary of not every placement is good for every business or brand. So it's still important to break out devices, negate them if necessary, and keep optimizing, of course, towards the efficiency and ROAS goals that we have. Sweet. So to wrap it all up, so with video and display and discovery, you want to be targeting the right audiences at the right stage of the VAC. So for awareness, there's options like detailed demographics, affinity, life events, similar audiences. For consideration, we really push those custom audiences and in markets. Those are people who are much more likely to purchase. And then, of course, for conversion, it's customer match or remarketing. And then for the last thing here, just a recap of what your options are. So if you're sitting here and you're thinking, oh my gosh, so much content, what do I do? Here are your options broken down at the different VAC stages. So for awareness, you could run mastheads. That does require some Google rep support, but we're here to support that and get that going. Of course, then there's also video reach like we discussed and display. And then for both consideration and conversion, you can use discovery, video action, display, of course, too. All of them have different bid strategies that help optimize towards those goals, but all of them are very effective still, and we highly recommend them. Awesome. Back to you, Nick.
All right. Well, we see that there are questions coming in, and please continue to ask your questions, folks. We're going to just cover a couple more sections here. And then go and take those questions. So first, we just want to talk a little bit about, you've got a VAC approach where you can look at awareness, consideration, conversion, loyalty, and advocacy. That is one way in which innovation and cross-channel thinking is making it easier to make smart investments in awareness. There are a few other emerging areas that agencies like ours are working on developing and bringing together. So the three are the VAC, media mix modeling, and customer lifetime value. So I want to just touch on media mix modeling and customer lifetime value for a moment here. So media mix model is a model that tries to study your past investments and understand what actually was working beyond all the challenges of attribution. So a media mix model will take all the ad spend that you have for certain channels like Google search, Google shopping, Google display, YouTube, or Meta, Amazon, and then look at all the revenue you've generated. And it first tells you what has happened in terms of revenue for the past 12 months and starts to project based on your current trajectory what next year's revenue looks like. So already doing something for your business, giving you revenue forecasts. And total A costs, that's kind of your efficiency. What happened in the past year based on the current trajectory, what is forecasted for the next year. Then it starts to get a little bit more prescriptive. It starts to identify of all the investments that you made, including ones that are very awareness focused, like paid social, what is having the biggest impact on revenue? And the way we built it, we said the lowest impact, just make that a coefficient of 1, and everything else would be based on that. So in this example, paid search is 7 times more impactful to driving revenue than social, and product ads 12 times more than paid social. That allows us to go back into the tool and then run new scenarios. Well, what happened if I increase product ads investment by 50% and decrease my social by 25? What's my forecast for next year now by month? Super helpful. And while this technology can study the seasonality of your year, looking at a few years worth of data, it can then project based on that seasonality, the ad spend impact of each of your channels, and kind of give you a month by month breakdown of what your revenue expectations should be and your ad spend per channel. So we bring this up in its current iteration, which is currently broken down by channel, because what we're doing is we're now ingesting VAC tagged data as well for our clients, where all of the awareness campaigns across Amazon, Meta, TikTok, Pinterest, and Google Ads is in one section, and then consideration, then conversion, and then loyalty. And we're starting to see, where do you now put your money that is driving the biggest revenue impact? And we have to do this because, to be fair, because of iOS 14 and because of privacy policies and because of this complex customer journey where people are bouncing around from one channel to another, no attribution model is going to give us those answers. So we need to collect all the data in one model, let linear regressions run, and give us that insight. Another challenge that e-com has been asking for, and very few platforms are delivering, is just want to know customer lifetime value, make it simple, and this definitely feeds into awareness. If you know your customer lifetime value, that's going to help you shape your cost per acquisition goals. So we've taken a crack at this as well. We said we want to look at as real-time data as possible, and here's what we want to look at. Customer lifetime value over 12 months, what the current cost per acquisition is. Down here, you can see cohorts. Every 6 months, take a new cohort of an entire group of people and tell us what the day 0 basket size is. What does that grow to by day 30, day 60, day 90, day 120? So are we doing a good job of getting big basket size on first purchase? Are all the SMS and email and Meta and YouTube advertising after that getting people to buy again a big amount fast enough? Because that's what your marketing is trying to actually do. Now, in the same reporting, we said, now let's give us a chance to take into account the new customer lifetime value, the margin, average margin of your products, and try to create a break-even CPA that is more informative than just first purchase cost per acquisition. As soon as you have a little bit more buffer on your cost per acquisition targets, that gives you a more liberal approach to awareness and consideration advertising. Anytime your conversion bucket is overperforming, you also can be more liberal and more lax with your awareness and conversion targets. So we need the data that tells us when we can be relaxed on that and expand scale. And while executing against those ideas, we want to report on new versus repeat customers. And as we wrap up, just thinking through, well, how do I know how much to invest in awareness and how to make these concepts come to life? Introduce a little bit of rubric here real quick. So the way we do it is we like to look at whether our clients are search-based or brand-based. A brand-based client is one where we can see in the data that the moment someone is aware of the brand name, they start searching for the name to buy. They start going through Facebook and awareness campaigns and buying directly. Their repeat visitor conversion rate is significantly higher than their new visit conversion rate. Something is happening when they become more familiar with the brand. And in that case, where that phenomenon exists, the efficiency drivers are awareness and conversion. So different from what you'd expect. And then you can grow the business by investing in consideration, loyalty, and advocacy, but the brand is really where it's at. Roughly 70% of businesses are search-based journey though, where we want to invest in consideration and conversion, and only after that efficiency has been invested in, do we add a little bit of awareness, a little bit of loyalty, a little bit of advocacy. We pepper that in. So two businesses that may seem similar, but the customer journey is different based on this bifurcation, would have vastly different investment strategies. So we think about this now in the context of Google Ads. If you're a search-based journey where it doesn't matter how much people know your brand name, your domain name, they just need to know it enough to make this transaction, they'll forget about it tomorrow. That's search-based journey. And in that case, you focus on consideration as much as possible, and then you slowly expand with other ads. And Google saw this phenomenon come true as well. They've been testing over the years. When we run Performance Max, shopping, and search, which are very much consideration and conversion type advertising, when you combine that with awareness advertising, like video, action, discovery, and display, they found that it boosts conversions by 13% at roughly the same cost per acquisition. So if anyone wants a 13% increase in their business without changing efficiency, you follow this search-based journey approach all the way to its nth level. If you're a brand-based journey, which again, typically roughly 30% of businesses are, you first focus on awareness. Why focus on awareness first? Because you know that something magical happens when people know your brand name. So if you are not putting those seeds out there as often as possible, then you have nothing to reap. So we want to make sure there's ubiquity in brand awareness. So when someone searches for your category and finds you, it's a very quick process to get them to buy now. And if they've never heard of you, then do the same type of awareness, but push it as remarketing. Another case of thinking through, like, when do I do awareness versus consideration, et cetera? A very typical case still today is digital transformation. So constantly working with businesses who have been around for 40 to 100 years. They're ubiquitous in their TV and radio advertising in a local area. They rely on it so much. They don't know what to do with it in terms of now adding in YouTube or some type of digital version of their traditional. And YouTube has a really tough time with that because in those situations, it's usually driving brick and mortar business. And you have to rely on Nielsen data. So they conducted 21 different Nielsen studies to figure out what happens when you take some money away. And what happened was, if a business takes roughly 20% of their business, their investment of TV, and puts it in YouTube, they're going to get the same reach for about 20% lower cost. So that's the benefit there. It's not more reach per se. It might be more timely reach, but it's also lower cost on average than traditional. So we're going to jump into questions. We want to keep plenty of time for questions, but really quickly, we talked about our media mix modeling, our customer lifetime value, our framework of VAC. These are all ways in which we've brought 26 years of channel specialization to life through coordinated strategy and through an investment in technology. That's how we do it. That's what we do differently. And we also offer, for anyone who is saying, well, you guys have done it for 26 years, what would you do for us? What would you do differently? Well, we'll go through a pretty extensive process that we don't charge for. We'll first learn your business, your competitors. We'll do an investigation on, are you a search-based journey or brand-based? What are your competitors doing in terms of those rubrics? What are we looking at in terms of segmentation? What's the right channel mix for you? So we'll do this whole channel mix recommendation process that we do for our clients every quarter. We do it for no cost. We'll figure out segmentation. If you have a lot of advertising in Google Ads or some big SEO challenges or Meta or Amazon, we'll bring someone in from that team to do a deep dive there as well. And then we'll give you proposal, technology, demo, pricing, your team structure, onboarding plan, everything at no cost, if you're the right fit. So the question really is, are you interested in us engaging with you on this type of growth plan? Again, it's no cost. Either myself or my colleague Liam will be the one to conduct the entire growth planning process. So I look forward to meeting with 50, 60% of you. And I'm going to keep this up as we quickly go to some of the questions here, in case our answers to your questions give you guys pause. So, Melissa, can you see the questions?
Yeah, I can run through. I was reading through some of these already. I know Liz said what was the second discovery ad shown, then said it was answered, but I'll just answer in case anyone else was just need a refresher. The 3 placements for discovery ads are Gmail, YouTube, and then the Google Discover feed. And then how do campaign types differ when it's e-commerce versus a storefront with walk-in traffic? Also, how does B2B differ from B2C business? For walk-in traffic, so if you have a goal, if you have a storefront and your goal is to get people to come into the store, Google does allow you to track store visits as a goal for campaigns, so that's pretty easy to set up. You just have to be wary of when using store visits, understanding that not every store visit was driven from an ad, but it helps you really measure how many people are seeing an ad and then coming into the store. For B2B versus B2C, we have tons of B2B clients and B2C clients. It kind of just differs again on what you're measuring. So we always recommend clients have some conversion goal in the account. So for like my B2B customers, we are tracking then form fills for quote requests or calling the store or anything like that. And we can still tell Google to optimize towards those conversions, whereas B2C, we're more normally just tracking sales on the site.
I'll just add a few things here. Any call tracking, yes, for B2B would be really helpful. Form fills, we can actually optimize around conversions. We don't always have to optimize around revenue. Though if you have some revenue number, it's better to optimize around revenue if you have a blend between form fill offsite purchases and on-site purchases. We want them to have some kind of parity. So having a revenue number for your calls allows us to optimize the entire account around revenue. In terms of the only other thing that I would add on the B2B side though is B2B buyers may be a little bit more knowledgeable in many cases, and in those situations we want to think about how their search behavior might be a little bit more specific. So in the Google Ads space, we may round out display ads in YouTube, not around brand, but more about like, here are our promises to B2B. We will do white glove consultations. You'll have an account manager. We have great invoicing. So it's not about the brand, it's more about the value props. And the search keywords might be less generic or unsophisticated. And they may be very make, model, SKU specific. But that could be the same for a B2C audience that is very knowledgeable as well.
Awesome. Do you market ads with Facebook? Yes, we do. We have a whole social team that can do that.
Yeah, we have accounts that spend up to $1 million per month on Meta alone.
And then we had, do you recommend smart display campaigns? I would, but they actually were sunset, I believe, and I was double checking this. September 30th as well, specific as Google ended their support September 30th. I did use Smart Display for my clients in the past. I did like it, but you can no longer do them. Smart Display has been lumped into both Performance Max and existing Smart Display, where like migrated potentially over to normal display campaigns. And then how do you eliminate or minimize bogus leads from display campaigns? I think part of that is just making sure that we're serving to the right sites, first of all. So again, those like monitoring your placements and making sure that we're not showing up on bogus sites that could lead to bogus leads. It also is just the process of understanding that there is going to unfortunately be some bogus leads coming through, but we're still optimizing, like Nick said, towards like those revenue goals and things like that. So we're understanding the impact. But Nick, not sure if you have any other thoughts on that.
I would just say also monitoring your purchase rates in your the conversion tab of Google Ads.
Yep.
If it's suspiciously greater than a 1.00, then it's possible that you're getting multiple clicks from people doing things in a shady way. How does brand awareness in various territories, not necessarily B2B direct selling, work? Brand awareness in various territories. So, Mark, I'm not sure if I'm entirely understanding the case here, but I'm going to assume a case here. Let's assume that the case is that you have territorial presence, which means you have brick and mortar, and you have maybe high brand awareness because it's local through TV and radio. If that's the case, then now you're going to invest in YouTube. How would you know that the incremental brand awareness is worth it compared to the ubiquitous brand awareness you've garnered through TV? There are a lot of different ways to test this concept of incremental, but one way that we've seen that is expensive but meaningful is pure incremental TV YouTube testing, where you take an audience that may already know who you are and you split two ads to them, one of your brand and one of like a charity. So in this group, people who are redundantly seeing your ad, if they act totally different from when they see a charity ad, then your digital advertising to further your brand awareness at that moment did something positive. I'm not sure if that was the underlying question, but Mark, if you have any way to clarify, or if you want to chat about this on a growth plan meeting, happy to take that on. Okay, folks, no, thank you. We're trying to end this in a reasonable time, but we can also take more questions. Folks, is this helpful? I know with 67% of you only invest in a display. We did cover a lot of video and discovery. Hopefully that was helpful, and maybe through looking at the VAC and media mix modeling, it gives you a chance to think about, I know what my existing marketing placements are. How do these compare? How can they fit in? So would love to hear your feedback either in the chat here or in the survey. If there are no more questions, then Melissa, thank you so much for helping prepare such meaningful content. And folks, thank you for taking your Wednesday to spend time with us. And yeah, I think that's it for us.
Thanks, Nick.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks, guys. Happy Wednesday. Happy New Year.
Bye, everyone.